So last year, JJ McCarthy was talked about a lot. I didn't want JJ McCarthy at 6. I said, no way. He's had everything he needs at Michigan. He's never been tested. That team's perfect around him. The Giants are a total freaking disaster. We gave up 85 sacks last year. We got no number one receiver. Not worth it. I don't know what he's going to be. I'm scared. Well, this year, a lot of people say McCarthy's probably a better prospect than both the quarterbacks. Sam Darnold takes Minnesota to the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. Minnesota, do you call them and offer them? Would you offer pick number 4 for JJ McCarthy, knowing the offensive line is a little better? We only gave up 48 sacks so far this year, so a little more than half of what we gave up last year, okay? Which is pretty, it's not great, but it's way better than it was. You have Malik Neighbors now, so he has a number one receiver. And you certainly could go out there and spend money on another number one receiver, 1A, like a T. Higgins or whoever. You could go out there and get him another one. You could also build the O-line, although I think Eric Smith is going back to Kansas City. You could still throw a ton of money at him, and you could build the line more. So although I didn't like McCarthy at 6 last year, to me, I'm not saying the team is good, but it seems like it'd be better for him now because, like you mentioned, John, they're going to go out and sign a bridge quarterback, and the rookie's not going to start week 1. Or the quarter, if we drafted a quarterback or McCarthy even. Anthony, would you trade the 4th overall pick? Would you call Minnesota and say, what does it take to get McCarthy? They say, give us your 4th pick in the draft. Do you do it?
So no, I wouldn't. And it's funny because you mentioned that you didn't like JJ McCarthy last year. And I was like the Giants fan, I feel like, who really liked him, probably more than I should have. I was willing to take him at 6. Again, in my mock draft prior to the draft, I traded up to 4. And I made the argument because I really think he has tools and traits. I know that obviously he had a lot of help at Michigan, but I thought that he made a lot of plays on his own. He had a really strong arm. He's really good at reading the field. Played in a pro-style offense. Like, I was a big JJ McCarthy proponent, and I liked him a lot, and I still am. I think that if he is available for trade this offseason, I'm absolutely exploring it. But the value of a first-round pick is tied to the contract of a first-round pick. So trading your 4th overall selection for a quarterback who's already lost a year of that rookie contract doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, if it's a 2nd-round pick, I'm all over it. Like, I would absolutely do it. I'd probably trade 2 seconds for JJ McCarthy. That would be my final offer.
That'd be great.
But I wouldn't include a 1st-round pick because, listen, you get that 4 years plus a 5th-year option on a rookie. That's the deal. Like, that's what you're hoping for whenever you draft someone in the 1st round. That's the argument. If you remember back when the Giants traded up into the back end of the 1st round to draft DeAndre Baker, they wanted the 5th-year option. You want the full 4 years plus the 5th year in order to develop this player. You're trading for McCarthy after he lost his rookie season due to a knee injury. You're losing an entire year on that contract, and you really only have him under contract for 3 years. That's not worth a 1st-round pick. That's definitely worth a 2nd-round pick, but it's not worth a 1st, unfortunately. And again, this is coming from the JJ McCarthy fan here, I feel like. So I love McCarthy. I would definitely trade a significant amount for him, but a 1st-round pick would be off the table because of his contract. I wouldn't give it up unless we had a full 5 years to keep him under contract.
It's a great point. I didn't even think about it. It's a great point. Audrina, how much are you willing to give up? I don't know how much of a fan you are of JJ McCarthy, but if Minnesota says, hey, we're shopping this guy around, they call the Giants, you're Joe Shane, how much are you willing to give up to get JJ McCarthy? If you're willing to give up anything for him.
I felt exactly like you did last year. I was like, I'm not picking JJ at 6. If they wanted to pick him later in the 1st round, so be it. But I was not on board with it. I was like, Drake May or Jaden Daniels or bust for the quarterbacks. But I think what the point that Anthony made about the contract is huge. On top of that, he also just had his 2nd knee surgery. So I think if you're going to trade for someone like JJ McCarthy, the goal is that as soon as he's healthy, he would be the starter, assuming, that the team is not a disaster. So maybe it's week 4 versus week 8 if you've got, your bridge quarterback in between. But the reason why I wouldn't do it is because this team has so many holes. And if we have an opportunity to get the best edge rusher or the best corner or, the best defensive tackle coming out, we need all of those things along with other things. And I know there's a 50-50 chance. We took Evan Neal, we took Kayvon Thibodeau. Look how those things worked out. I get it. But I also think that if you have the opportunity to get the best player available or to trade back and get more picks, you have to do one of those 2 things because this team needs a lot of help and it's not going to get fixed overnight. And if we can hit on, this draft similarly to like we did in 2024, this team could be fixed a lot quicker than any of us ever expected.
So what do you think it would take to get JJ McCarthy? Do you think they could do it for a second and a third? Do you think that's possible? Like not this year, but like 2020, this year's second, which would be first, top end of the second round, and like next year's third. Do you think that gets it done? Do you think that's possible, or do you think it takes more? Well, John,
I think it would be a second and some change. I'll just jump in. Sorry, but
that's fine.
I think because you got to look at the Josh Rosen trade, and I know everybody's going to quickly counter and say, well, Josh Rosen played his rookie year and he looked like trash. It's revisionist history because I distinctly remember that offseason after his rookie year, there was still chatter about him being traded for a first-round pick. People still were arguing that should be the deal. He ended up going for a second, even though he was bad. So everybody arguing, everybody already knew what he was. I mean, he was terrible as a rookie, still went for a second. He holds his value, but he was healthy. JJ McCarthy's not healthy. I think the deal will be similar to the Rosen deal. Rosen deal was a second and a fifth. It was a second in 2020 and a fifth in 2021. I think the McCarthy would probably be either 2 picks from the 2025 draft, so a second and like a fifth in that draft, or you'd be talking about maybe 2 twos, I think is the most. And that's a steep price for a quarterback, again, like Adriana just mentioned, had 2 knee surgeries and missed his entire rookie season and doesn't have the 5th-year option, or really only has 4 years on his deal if you include the 5th-year option. So that's where I would go with it, and that's what I think he's going to get traded for if he gets traded, but I really don't think he gets traded because I think the whole story here, the whole lesson for the Giants, they should have had some sort of a JJ McCarthy backup plan to a Sam Darnold this whole time, and they don't. I think the Vikings are a smart front office, and they're going to realize they have a blessing to have 2 quarterbacks that have potential franchise potential under contract. They're going to want to keep both of those guys, in my opinion.
So when you talk about the 2 franchise guys, you're talking about McCarthy and Daniel Jones.
Obviously.
Adriana, what do you think? What do you think it takes to get JJ McCarthy?
I think the same thing. I don't think that a team, especially one like the Giants, is probably going to be giving up a first round for him at this point, knowing that he hasn't played a snap. He's not healthy. We don't know when he's going to be back, all of those types of things. So I would think probably a second and later, but agree with Anthony that it would probably have to be this year, 2025 picks would probably be able to get it done. But I also feel the same way. I really don't think that JJ McCarthy's going anywhere. And I'm surprised that he's the only name when it comes to quarterbacks that comes up out of everyone, because I don't think Sam Darnold is going anywhere. I think if you look at Sam Darnold's history, the best place for him and for the Vikings is for him to stay in Minnesota. Like, are they going to pay Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones as their quarterbacks next year? Like, they have a rookie quarterback essentially on a rookie deal for another 3 years, potentially 4. I just don't see any scenario where they're willing to give him up for that. And figure at the very least they could franchise tag Sam Darnold and they could worry about, the future after that. So I think that's probably going to be more likely. And the Vikings did what the Falcons did, and they were all smart about it. When we all laughed at the Falcons, what are you doing picking Michael Penix, number 8 overall? Guess we all have the last laugh, or the Falcons have the last laugh, and they're all laughing at us because they have a good backup quarterback, and we went into the season with our quarterback room.
Yeah,
so
maybe we'll end up with
Kirk right.
Maybe we'll end up with Kirk Cousins. That'd be fantastic. Not really. I'm just kidding.